His father, Han Sung-min, was the formidable head of Hansung Group, a titan shaping the Korean economy. Though his demanding business schedule precluded spending much time with his son, he provided Ji Hune with the finest education and environment imaginable. Yet, amidst all this abundance, Ji Hune was perpetually solitary. His extraordinary intellect made interaction with peers challenging, and adults, while respecting him, also harbored a subtle fear. His gaze, incredibly deep and sharp for a 12-year-old, seemed to pierce through people's hidden intentions with a chilling shrewdness. Particularly, his allergy to anyone approaching him or his father with monetary motives was profound. He possessed an uncanny ability to detect such intentions and ruthlessly cast aside anyone exhibiting them. His childhood had been punctuated by the relentless, ultimately failed attempts of numerous gold diggers. Previous nannies were no different. Most approached him or his father, coveting their immense wealth and status, only to have their true colors exposed by Ji Hune's piercing insight, leading to their dismissal. He distrusted nannies, finding the very word distasteful. A worn, second-hand car cautiously navigated the sleek black asphalt leading to the mansion's garden. Its shabby appearance sharply contrasted with the imposing grandeur of the residence. Unju, 24, sat in the passenger seat, gazing up at the enormous mansion outside the window. It resembled a palace from a fairy tale, yet her heart was a mix of apprehension and firm resolve. The heavy burden of her ailing mother and her younger brother's tuition rested on her slender shoulders. This burden often made her hesitate, but simultaneously, it fueled her strength to press forward. Unju, despite graduating from a prestigious university, struggled to find employment. With her family's livelihood directly dependent on her getting a job, she temporarily set aside her dream of a corporate secretarial position and applied for the high-paying nanny role at Hansung Group. Though she had no prior experience as a nanny, she possessed a warm heart and an unwavering sense of responsibility. During the interview, Chairman Han's secretary informed her that Ji Hune was exceptionally difficult and shrewd, having gone through multiple nannies. While other applicants were deterred, Unju remained undaunted. Instead, a pure yearning to understand the young boy, a child seemingly burdened by some unknown sorrow, began to bloom within her. "We have arrived, Ms. Unju," the driver announced. Unju took a deep breath, her palms sweaty. She clutched her small Boston bag and stepped out of the car. A housemaid in a pristine white uniform greeted her, a subtle expression fleeting across her face. Was it pity or mockery? Unju consciously ignored it and followed. Entering the mansion's foyer, Unju felt overwhelmed. The soaring ceilings, glittering chandeliers, and priceless artworks lining every wall made it feel like a colossal museum. She vowed silently, "I must survive here. I must understand Ji Hune and become a part of this household." As the housemaid led her to the second floor, Unju meticulously observed the mansion's interior. Everything was impeccably organized, and a subtle, luxurious scent permeated the air. Yet, within that perfection, she sensed a strange emptiness, a lack of warm vitality. At the end of the hallway, the housemaid knocked on Ji Hune's study door. Immediately, a sharp voice from within commanded, "Come in." The voice was unbelievably cold and resolute for a young boy. When the door opened, Unju's eyes widened in disbelief. The housemaid who had just knocked was nowhere to be seen, and in her place stood a boy far younger than herself. The boy's height barely reached her waist, yet his presence was overwhelming. His sharp jawline, high nose bridge, and deep-set eyes were like those of a sculpted statue. He stood askew, scrutinizing Unju from head to toe. His gaze, despite his youth, held a cynical disdain that seemed to penetrate everything. "Are you the new nanny?" Ji Hune's voice was so devoid of emotion, it was almost mechanical. Unju was momentarily flustered, but she quickly composed herself and smiled brightly. "Yes, young master Ji Hune. My name is Unju. Please take care of me from now on." She extended her hand, but Ji Hune ignored it. Instead, he walked into the study, turning his back to Unju and fixing his gaze back on his computer monitors. It was a blatant dismissal. Unju felt a slight awkwardness, but she had already anticipated such a situation. She watched Ji Hune's retreating figure for a moment before slowly stepping into the study. The room contained little else besides books and computer equipment. There were no children's toys or drawings to be found. It resembled the laboratory of a young prodigy. My name is Unju. Unju reintroduced herself, moving closer to him. I will be looking after your daily life as your nanny from now on. Her voice was soft but firm. Ji Hune, without tearing his eyes from the monitor, murmured, "Is this the 7th already? I wonder how long this one will last." His voice was laced with mockery. He was treating Unju like all the other nannies, someone who would covet his wealth and status, try to win his affection, and eventually grow tired and leave. I am not interested in your wealth or status, Unju stated calmly and firmly. Her words sent a shiver down Ji Hune's spine. He spun around, glaring at Unju. His eyes were filled with wariness and suspicion. Really? Then what do you want? All the nannies who have entered this Hansung group mansion had the same intentions. You're no different, are you? Unju did not flinch from Ji Hune's sharp gaze. I came here because I need money. My family desperately needs it. However, that does not mean I will act falsely to gain your favor or deceive you. I will simply perform my duties diligently. She spoke of her situation without pretense. She was dignified, with nothing to be ashamed of. Ji Hune was momentarily taken aback by Unju's honesty. Her reaction was entirely different from what he had expected. Previous nannies had mostly emphasized their pure intentions or approached him with false kindness. Yet, Unju admitted her need for money, while clearly stating that it was not an intent to deceive or exploit him. His eyes still held suspicion, but a subtle ripple began in a corner of his heart. How amusing, Ji Hune said with a sneer. Then let's see how diligently you perform. He turned his attention back to his computer, as if he had lost interest in Unju, but Unju continued to watch him intently. She instinctively sensed the hidden hurt and solitude behind his cold demeanor. Young master, have you had dinner? Unju asked cautiously. Ji Hune did not respond. I am responsible for your health and basic well-being. Meals are one of my important duties. Unju stated softly but firmly. Ji Hune sighed. It doesn't matter. I'm not hungry. But your face is pale, and it's well past dinner time. You should eat something. Shall I prepare some simple porridge for you? Unju persisted despite his refusal. Her persistence seemed to irritate Ji Hune even more. I said I don't need it. He raised his voice, a cold anger flickering in his eyes. Unju was not startled by his anger. She calmly met his gaze. Young master, I understand you are upset, but I must perform my duties. I must provide what you need, not just what you want. That is my role. Her unwavering demeanor silenced Ji Hune. He saw an unshakable resolve in her eyes. It seemed not merely a professional stance for earning money, but a genuine desire to care for him. Of course, Ji Hune did not want to admit that thought. So you'll decide what I should eat, Ji Hune said sarcastically. Yes, young master. If you are unwell, I will prepare easily digestible porridge for you. When you are healthy, please tell me what you would like. Unju responded gently. She already knew Ji Hune was testing her. She was prepared to pass all his tests. Ji Hune stood up. Fine. Do as you please. He roughly pushed his chair back and headed towards the study door. You won't be any different from the other nannies anyway. His final words were like a dagger. But Unju's expression remained unchanged. She watched Ji Hune leave the study. A moment later, she surveyed the room and began her duties. She started by tidying Ji Hune's desk. Every book was precisely in its place, and there was not a speck of dust. She could glimpse his perfectionist nature. She sat in Ji Hune's chair and looked at his computer screen. It was filled with complex equations and code. It was beyond what a 12-year-old child could comprehend. She was once again struck by his genius. After tidying the study, she headed to the kitchen. The mansion's kitchen was larger and more modern than a restaurant's. Countless cooking utensils gleamed. The housemaids eyed Unju warily. It seemed they harbored ill feelings toward the new nanny due to the various commotions caused by previous ones. Unju ignored their gazes and opened the refrigerator. It was filled with fresh ingredients. She began preparing a simple vegetable porridge. While the porridge simmered, Unju received a call from her mother. Unju, is your first day okay? Is anything difficult? Her mother's voice was full of concern. Yes, Mom. I'm fine. Young Master Ji Hune is a bit difficult, but I think I can handle it. Unju tried to sound cheerful. She didn't want to convey her anxiety to her mother. Okay, my daughter will do well. Always think of Mom and your brother and stay strong. Her mother's encouragement brought tears to Unju's eyes. She had to be strong. She had to succeed here. Once the porridge was ready, Unju carefully scooped it into a bowl and brought it to Ji Hune's room. Ji Hune was still at his computer. He glanced at the bowl Unju carried, then immediately turned his gaze back to the monitor. I told you I don't need it. His voice was laced with irritation. Young master, please just try one bite. I prepared it with all my sincerity, Unju said softly. She placed the bowl in front of him. A savory aroma wafted from the porridge. Ji Hune hesitated. He was hungry, but his pride wouldn't allow him to admit it. He thought Unju was trying to make him weak. I won't eat anything. Take it away, he said resolutely. If you don't eat it, I will wait here, Unju said with a determined expression. She pulled up a chair and sat beside him. Ji Hune was taken aback by Unju's stubbornness. He hadn't expected her to push so hard. Ji Hune glared at Unju for a long moment. Her eyes were unwavering. It was as if she was showing him that no matter how angry he got, she wouldn't back down. Finally, Ji Hune sighed. All right, I'll just have one bite. He picked up the spoon and took a spoonful of the porridge. The warm, soft porridge spread in his mouth. It was surprisingly delicious. Is it good? Unju asked cautiously. Ji Hune did not answer. He silently took another spoonful of porridge. A subtle change came over his face. The wariness in his eyes seemed to soften ever so slightly. Unju didn't miss it. She smiled. Ji Hune almost finished the porridge. He put down his spoon and said, But you won't be any different from the others. Eventually, you'll leave my side. A deep hurt was palpable in his voice. He had seen countless people leave him, especially those who had initially been kind, only to eventually disappoint him. I will not leave your side, Unju stated firmly. As long as I am here, I will protect you, no matter what happens. Her words resonated in Ji Hune's heart. He looked deeply into her eyes. There was no falsehood in her gaze, only sincerity. That night, Ji Hune had a warm sleep for the first time in a long while. Even after leaving his room, Unju lingered outside his door for a long time. In her heart, compassion for Ji Hune blossomed, along with a strong sense of responsibility to care for him. She earnestly wished to be more than just a nanny here, but a necessary presence for Ji Hune. She knew that behind the boy's cold exterior lay deep wounds and loneliness, and she wanted to heal those wounds. In the darkness of the mansion, Unju returned to her small room. The room was modest, yet it brought her comfort. She looked out the window at the city lights, the dazzling, prosperous nightscape of Seoul. In it, she was searching for a small glimmer of hope for herself and her family. She believed that tomorrow would be a better day, that her relationship with Ji Hune would gradually improve, and that she could become essential to him. A tiny seed had already been planted in her heart, a sincere affection and responsibility for Ji Hune. She would never give up. She lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Today had been truly long. A new environment, encounters with unfamiliar people, and most importantly, her first meeting with young master Han Ji Hune. Ji Hune's cynical attitude and sharp words had left a deep impression on her heart, but at the same time, they strengthened her resolve. She saw in his eyes a profound solitude, coupled with a subtle shadow that seemed to yearn for help. That child was alone. He's been alone for too long, Unju thought. A young boy trapped in wealth, wary and distrustful of everything outside. Perhaps he desperately needed someone who could truly understand and embrace him. Since previous nannies had all approached him for money, Ji Hune had no choice but to view everyone through that lens. What trials awaited her tomorrow morning, Unju didn't know. But she wasn't afraid. She had a strong will to protect her mother and younger brother. And now, a sense of responsibility towards young master Ji Hune had also emerged. She wanted to be more than just a nanny to him. She wanted to be someone who truly cared for and loved him, someone who could soothe his wounded heart. Unju gently closed her eyes. The fatigue of a long day washed over her, but her heart was peaceful. She fell into a deep sleep, anticipating tomorrow's challenges. The mansion's lights glowed softly under the night sky. Like those lights, Unju's small hope quietly shone in the darkness. The morning after Lee Unju's tumultuous arrival at the Han Sung Group mansion, she awoke to the sight of Seoul's early sunlight illuminating the sprawling garden outside her window. Dewdrops shimmered like scattered jewels on the meticulously manicured lawn. For a fleeting moment, she wondered if it had all been a dream, the imposing mansion, the cold, brilliant boy, and the surprising, almost imperceptible shift in his demeanor when he'd consumed her humble porridge. Ji Hune's subtle hesitation, his slight softening, those tiny cracks in his icy facade were the faint embers of hope she clung to. At breakfast time, Unju made her way to Ji Hune's room. As she knocked, the same sharp, resolute voice as yesterday commanded, "Come in." Ji Hune was already seated at his computer, complex graphs and figures filling the screens. Nothing was set before him. "Young master, it's time for breakfast," Unju said softly. Ji Hune didn't turn his head. "I don't eat breakfast, but regular meals are crucial for your health, especially at your age. It helps you grow strong," Unju gently persisted, her voice as calm and steady as the previous evening. She carefully placed a bowl of warm porridge and some soft side dishes on the table. "Today, I've prepared beef and vegetable porridge with a soft steamed egg. I think you'll enjoy it." Ji Hoon sighed. "Not this again. I ate the porridge yesterday, so please, let it go today." His voice was tinged with irritation. He seemed to view Unju as a persistent annoyance. "Yesterday was yesterday, and today is today. My duty is to care for your well-being," Unju stated firmly. Her unwavering resolve surprised Ji Hoon once more. He picked up his spoon, but instead of the porridge, he scooped a small portion of the steamed egg into his mouth. The soft, warm egg melted on his tongue. He began to eat in silence. Unju watched him, a quiet smile playing on her lips. Beneath his cold exterior, she sensed her sincerity was slowly beginning to penetrate. After breakfast, Unju observed Ji Hoon's daily routine. He didn't attend school but had private tutors who came to the mansion to teach all subjects. Mornings were dedicated to mathematics and science, afternoons to humanities and foreign languages. His schedule was rigorous, interspersed with moments spent immersed in his own research at the computer. To avoid disturbing his studies, Unju quietly sat nearby, reading a book or proactively finding materials she thought he might need. Days turned into a week. Ji Hoon remained distant. He treated Unju as if she were invisible, engaging in conversation only when absolutely necessary. Yet, Unju did not give up. Each morning and evening, she prepared his meals with utmost care, meticulously tidied his study, and responded swiftly whenever he needed something. She flawlessly learned his schedule, his favorite and disliked foods, and the subtle cues that indicated his annoyance. One afternoon, Ji Hoon encountered a roadblock while solving a complex mathematical problem. He scowled and tossed his pen aside. "This makes no sense," he muttered. Unju quietly observed him, intuitively grasping the complexity of the problem he was wrestling with. She carefully rose from her seat and approached Ji Hoon. "Young master, is there anything I can help you with?" Unju asked softly. Ji Hoon glanced at Unju. "What would you know?" His voice was tinged with mockery. He couldn't imagine a nanny being able to assist him with his academic challenges. "I can't claim to possess extraordinary mathematical prowess. However, sometimes viewing a problem from a different perspective can reveal the solution," Unju stated calmly. Ji Hoon scoffed. "Nonsense. You probably don't even know what mathematics is. I participated in the Mathematics Olympiad during high school, and I consistently received an A+ in mathematics throughout university." Unju replied matter-of-factly. She preferred not to flaunt her academic achievements, but she felt compelled to address Ji Hoon's arrogant attitude. Ji Hoon was startled by Unju's words, his eyes widening. He knew she had graduated from a prestigious university, but he had no idea she had competed in the Math Olympiad. He scrutinized her again, from head to toe. Suspicion still lingered in his eyes, but a subtle flicker of interest began to spark. "Is that so? Then go on," Ji Hoon challenged. Extending his notebook to Unju, it contained a complex differential equation. Unju took the notebook and calmly examined the problem. After a moment's thought, she picked up a pen and began to write something in the margin of the notebook. Her hand moved without hesitation. Ji Hoon watched intently as she wrote. The solution she presented was entirely different from his own. A remarkably creative approach. He narrowed his eyes, following Unju's step-by-step solution. By substituting the variable this way, the problem becomes much simpler, Unju quietly explained. Her voice was soft, yet her explanation was clear and logical. Ji Hoon's eyes brightened as he listened to her explanation. "Ah!" he exclaimed, a sudden understanding dawning on him. The problem he had struggled with for so long was magically unraveling before his eyes. He looked at Unju again, his expression one of utter astonishment and respect. "Young master, do you understand now?" Unju asked. "Yes, I understand," Ji Hoon replied, still looking somewhat dazed. "That's incredible. How did you come up with such a solution?" He trailed off, unable to complete his sentence. After this incident, Ji Hune no longer maintained a complete indifference towards Unju. He remained reserved, but occasionally he would glance at her or observe her actions more closely. And sometimes, when his academic conundrums deepened, he would subtly seek her assistance, posing questions as if casually. Unju, in turn, diligently helped him each time, and her assistance consistently provided Ji Hune with clear solutions. Meanwhile, rumors about Unju began to spread among the other staff members in the mansion. Unlike previous nannies, she was rumored to be handling Ji Hune's difficult personality well and even assisting him with his studies. Some housemaids looked at Unju with admiration, while others harbored jealousy and suspicion. They couldn't shake the belief that Unju, too, was ultimately after money. In particular, Mrs. Park, the long-serving head housemaid, regarded Unju with disdain. Mrs. Park had earned Chairman Han's trust to the extent that she could recommend nannies for Ji Hune, and thus, she held a strong sense of pride in her position. She was wary of Unju's youth and the subtle changes she observed in Ji Hune. Madam Park, the young master finished all his porridge this morning. Unju reported to Mrs. Ois Park, who replied in a cold voice, "Is that so? You must be lucky. The young master is very capricious. It won't last long." Her words clearly conveyed a hint of sarcasm. Unju smiled despite Mrs. Park's hostile attitude. "I will do my best to ensure the young master eats healthily every day." Her firm demeanor displeased Mrs. Park. One evening, Ji Hune developed a fever. His face was pale, and his body was hot. Unju was startled at the sight. She immediately contacted the secretary, requesting that the family doctor be summoned. Then, she placed a cold towel on Ji Hune's forehead and stayed by his side. Despite his illness, Ji Hune's mind remained clear. He felt a subtle emotion as he watched Unju worry and care for him. Previous nannies, when he fell ill, would quickly report to the chairman to avoid responsibility or only offer perfunctory care. But Unju was different. Her touch was gentle, and her eyes held genuine concern. "Oh, why are you by my side?" Ji Hune asked in a faint voice. "Because you're sick, young master. I need to take care of you." Unju replied softly. "What if you catch it from me?" Ji Hune said deliberately, trying to be difficult. "Your health is more important to me, young master." Unju responded with a smile. Her warm smile seemed to infuse a small warmth into Ji Hune's frozen heart. The doctor arrived and diagnosed Ji Hune with the flu. The doctor prescribed antipyretics and emphasized the importance of sufficient rest and nutrition, even after the doctor left. Unju stayed by Ji Hune's side throughout the night. She regularly checked his temperature, changed his cold compress, and gave him water whenever he was thirsty. Even in his sleep, Ji Hune could feel Unju's warm touch. The distrust and wariness that had accumulated in his heart began to slowly crumble. The next morning, Ji Hune's fever had broken. He awoke looking much better. Unju was dozing by his side, her face showing signs of fatigue, but her hand was still resting on Ji Hune's forehead. Ji Hune gazed at Unju's face. His eyes held a newfound softness. He knew she had stayed by his side all night, caring for him. "Ms. Unju," Ji Hune called out softly. Unju awoke and looked at Ji Hune. "Young master, are you all right? Has your fever gone down?" Her voice was filled with concern. "Yes, I'm fine," Ji Hune replied awkwardly. It was the first time he had looked at Unju so closely. For so long, her face, despite the fatigue, radiated warmth and purity. "You watched over me all night. Thank you," Ji Hune said for the first time, expressing genuine gratitude to Unju. His voice was small, but those words resonated deeply within Unju's heart. Unju smiled brightly. "You're welcome, young master. I'm glad you're feeling better." Her smile was as warm as sunshine. Ji Hune felt a strange comfort watching her smile. The icy wall in his heart was slowly melting away. Thereafter, Ji Hune became much softer towards Unju. He no longer ignored her and listened to what she said. He even confided his concerns to her, and occasionally played board games with her or listened to her read books. Of course, Ji Hune remained a perfectionist and didn't easily show his emotions. But Unju knew trust and affection for her had begun to sprout in his heart. Among the mansion staff, perceptions of Unju began to change. Her diligence, sincere attitude, and Ji Hune's remarkable transformation made them no longer doubt Unju. Even Mrs. Park's gaze softened slightly. She couldn't help but admit that Unju was distinctly different from the other nannies. One afternoon, Ji Hune began to tell Unju about his new research project. He spoke excitedly about his ideas on artificial intelligence and quantum computing. Although Unju didn't fully understand the technical details, she listened intently and genuinely empathized with his passion. She saw the pure curiosity and dedication in his eyes. Ji Hune felt deeply satisfied, sensing that he was truly understood. Ms. Unju, do you find what I'm saying interesting? Ji Hune asked cautiously. It was the first time he had ever spoken so passionately about his research. Yes, young master, it's truly amazing. Your talent and passion are truly admirable, Unju said sincerely. A subtle blush spread across Ji Hune's face. He seemed a little embarrassed. He turned his gaze back to the computer monitor, but a small smile played on his lips. That night, Unju wrote in her diary in her room. Today, young Master Ji Hune told me about his research. Seeing the sparkle of passion in his eyes, my heart ached thinking about how lonely he must have been. But not anymore. I want to show him that he is no longer alone. I want to be someone he can trust and rely on. Perhaps I will gain something more than just money here. Unju looked out the window. Seoul's night was still vibrant, but her heart felt much warmer than before. She could feel Ji Hune's cold wall slowly crumbling, and she knew this small change would create a greater miracle in the future. She looked forward to tomorrow even more. For a month, a fragile peace had settled over the Han Sung Group mansion. The relationship between Lee Unju and young master Han Ji Hune had visibly improved. Ji Hune no longer treated Unju with cold indifference. Sometimes, he would even initiate conversations or share new knowledge he had acquired. A faint smile more frequently graced his lips, and his eyes, once shadowed by cynicism, now held glimmers of curiosity and warmth. Chairman Han Sung-min observed his son's transformation with quiet contentment, acknowledging Unju's profoundly positive influence on Ji Hune's life and deepening his trust in her. Even Mrs. Park and the other mansion staff had ceased their skepticism. Now recognizing Unju's diligence and genuine affection for Ji Hune, everything seemed to flow smoothly. But peace, as is often the case in grand narratives, was fleeting. One bright afternoon, the grand gates of the mansion swung open once more, and a sleek, red luxury sports car glided into the driveway. The woman who emerged from it was breathtakingly beautiful, commanding all eyes. Her long, lustrous black hair, sculpted features, and perfect physique made it seem as though she had stepped directly from the pages of a high-fashion magazine. Her name was Kang Hye-rim. She walked towards the mansion's entrance, a graceful smile playing on her lips, her every step exuding a peculiar blend of confidence and captivating elegance. Kang Hye-rim was rumored to be the daughter of one of Chairman Han's old friends, recently returned from overseas to launch her own business. She had known the chairman for a long time, and given his close ties with her parents, he welcomed her warmly. Yet, in her eyes, there was a glimmer of something more than mere reunion joy, a calculating, avaricious gleam, precisely the kind Unju had observed in countless gold diggers of the past. Hiram skillfully engaged Chairman Han in conversation, effortlessly charming him. She possessed a refined sense of humor and keen intellect, and her extensive knowledge of business intrigued the chairman. From his study window, Ji Hune observed the entire scene. The moment Hiram appeared, Ji Hune's expression hardened. His latent allergy to gold diggers seemed to reactivate. He detected an unnatural quality in Hiram's perfect smile and elegant movements. "Who is that person, young master?" Unju asked cautiously. She felt an ominous premonition watching Ji Hune's rigid expression. "Someone I don't know." "No need to know," Ji Hune replied in a cold voice, his tone laced with wariness. Before long, Hiram began to frequent the mansion as Chairman Han's personal guest. She always appeared in impeccable attire and adorned with extravagant jewelry, striving to dominate the mansion's atmosphere with her presence. She engaged Chairman Han in intellectually stimulating conversations, occasionally offering subtle advice on his business affairs. Chairman Han was deeply impressed by Hiram's intelligence and zeal, believing she could be a positive influence on his son, Ji Hune. Hiram also attempted to approach Ji Hune. She praised his genius in a sweet voice and brought expensive toys or rare books as gifts. But Ji Hune steadfastly rejected all her advances. He saw through her facade, discerning the true intentions hidden behind her perfect smile. He detested the greed and hypocrisy that shimmered in her eyes. One evening at dinner, Hiram sat next to Ji Hune, constantly engaging him in conversation. Ji Hune is truly a special child. How can someone so young possess such extraordinary talent? I studied quite a bit when I was young, but compared to Ji Hune, it's nothing. Hiram skillfully flattered Ji Hune while subtly downplaying herself. Her voice was so sweet it seemed to melt the ears of those who heard it. Ji Hune ate in silence. He knew Hiram's compliments were all false. Hidden within her praises were cunning intentions aimed at achieving her own objectives. Ji Hune, do you like the robot I gave you? I specially brought it from America. Hiram continued. Ji Hune looked up and stared at Hiram. I have no interest in toys. And I don't need anything. Don't try to give me anything. His voice was cold, and his eyes seemed to disdain Hiram. Hiram was momentarily flustered but quickly smiled. Oh my, Ji Hune, you are so honest. That's charming too. She accepted Ji Hune's rejection as if it were nothing. There was no sign of hurt on her face. This was proof of how skillfully she concealed her emotions. Unju observed the entire situation. She sensed the sharp claws hidden beneath Hiram's perfect facade. Hiram wasn't merely trying to impress Ji Hune or Chairman Han. She was subtly undermining Unju and attempting to weaken her position. During dinner, Hiram would subtly criticize Unju's methods of caring for Ji Hune or make sarcastic remarks about Unju's involvement in Ji Hune's studies. Ms. Lee Unju is Ji Hune's nanny. But do you also oversee his studies? I thought Ji Hune had a separate private tutor. Surely you're not tutoring him. Are you? Hiram said with a smiling face. Looking at Unju, her words subtly implied that Unju was overstepping her boundaries. Unju calmly replied, I provide assistance in all areas where young Master Ji Hune needs help. That is my duty. She remained unperturbed by Hiram's provocation. Chairman Han nodded, seemingly satisfied with Unju's response. He knew that Unju was positively influencing Ji Hune's academic progress. Hiram began to overtly sideline Unju. She would tell Chairman Han that Unju was too young and inexperienced, or subtly imply that what Ji Hune truly needed was genuine refinement and social skills, not just mere care, thereby attempting to discredit Unju. She even approached Mrs. Park, the long-serving head housemaid, to spread negative rumors about Unju. But Mrs. Park, already aware of Unju's sincerity, did not cooperate with Hiram. Ji Hune observed Hiram's every move with keen precision. He realized that Hiram's approach was on an entirely different level from the gold diggers he had encountered in the past. Hiram was far more cunning, meticulous, and adept at concealing her true intentions. He instinctively sensed that she was not merely after money, but rather coveted the power of the Han Sung group, and her attempts to sideline Unju deeply unsettled him. In Ji Hune's heart, Unju was no longer just a nanny, but one of the few precious people who had genuinely reached out to him. One night, Ji Hune called Unju to his study. Ms. Unju, what do you think of Ms. Kang Hiram? Ji Hune asked directly. Unju hesitated for a moment. She debated whether to express her honest thoughts about Hiram or to respond cautiously. However, she believed she should always tell Ji Hune the truth. Ms. Kang Hiram appears very beautiful and capable, but I sense a certain coldness from her. Her smile is so perfect that it seems unnatural. Unju cautiously shared her thoughts. Ji Hune nodded at Unju's response. That's what I think too. She's hiding something. Her real intentions lie elsewhere. A sharp gleam flickered in Ji Hune's eyes. She's approaching my father, but her goal isn't just marriage. I think she's aiming for the entire Han Sung group. Unju was startled. She felt a sense of awe that a 12-year-old boy could see through the situation so clearly. Young master, you think so? Yes. I saw greed in her eyes, and I sensed hypocrisy in her demeanor towards me. She portrays herself as the kindest and most perfect person, but there's venom hidden within, especially in how she treats you. Ms. Unju, Ji Hune said in a cold voice. Unju was touched by Ji Hune's words. Her heart warmed, knowing that he trusted her and had seen through Hiram's hypocrisy for her sake. Then, young master, what should we do? Unju asked. Ji Hune questioned, sounding puzzled. Yes, you and I, if Ms. Kang Hiram poses a threat to you and the Han Sung group, we must stop her together, Unju stated firmly. She was no longer a passive nanny. She was ready to stand by Ji Hune and fight alongside him. Ji Hune was surprised by Unju's assertiveness. He had not expected her to take such an active stance. Her eyes, instead of fear, were filled with courage and determination. In that moment, his last vestiges of wariness towards Unju crumbled. He was once again convinced of her sincerity. She was not after wealth or status. She was genuinely looking out for him and trying to protect him. All right, Ji Hune finally agreed. We need to expose her true identity. But we must be careful. She might be more dangerous than we think. His voice was resolute. He had already identified Hiram as his adversary. Yes, young master. I will help you. Unju nodded. A fierce determination ignited within her. She was ready to overcome this crisis with Ji Hune. That night, Ji Hune and Unju stayed late in the study. Beginning to gather information on Hiram, Ji Hune utilized his computer skills to investigate Hiram's past activities and the financial status of companies she was involved with. Unju, with her keen observational skills and delicate intuition, recorded subtle inconsistencies in Hiram's behavior and speech. They moved like a seasoned detective team. Ji Hune handled the technical analysis, while Unju identified Hiram's human vulnerabilities. Miss, Hiram always wears the same kind of luxury watch, but yesterday evening at dinner, she was wearing a different watch. As far as I know, that watch was a different model, Unju said. Ji Hune's eyes widened at Unju's words. What does that mean? Perhaps she has multiple watches, or perhaps that watch isn't hers, Unju speculated. She knew Hiram's perfectionist nature and her tendency to flaunt everything, so she thought such a minor change could be a crucial clue in revealing the truth hidden behind her facade. Ji Hune was once again impressed by Unju's keen observation skills. While he was adept at analyzing complex data and digital records, he struggled to read the subtle nuances of human emotion and behavior. Unju filled precisely that void. They were a perfect team. As time passed, they pieced together the fragments of Hiram's deceptive life. Her glamorous background was largely fabricated, and her claimed business successes were in reality built upon unsound investments and fraudulent schemes. She was orchestrating a grand conspiracy, leveraging Chairman Han's wealth and Han Sung Group's reputation to launder her past and accrue even greater profits. Ji Hune and Unju realized that her true objective was to seize control of Han Sung Group's management. She wasn't merely after money. She aimed to monopolize the corporation to solidify her own wealth and prestige. Late into the night, the ongoing investigation and analysis exhausted them both physically and mentally. Yet they could not stop. Critical clues to Hiram's conspiracy accumulated, one by one, in their hands. Ji Hune stared at his laptop screen, deep in thought. He was furious that Hiram could orchestrate such an elaborate fraud, but he also felt a sense of pride in his and Unju's ability to uncover her weaknesses. Ms. Unju, we're almost there, Ji Hune said softly. His voice, despite the fatigue, carried a subtle premonition of victory. Unju gently patted Ji Hune's shoulder. Yes, young master. Soon, all the truth will be revealed. Her voice was soft, yet confident. She was becoming a steadfast support, standing by Ji Hune. In the darkness of the mansion, the two figures shone like the calm eye of a storm. One, a boy with a genius mind that saw through everything. The other, a woman who read human nature with a warm heart and keen insight. Together, they prepared to confront the greedy shadow of Kang Hiram. The long shadow cast over the mansion would soon vanish. Following Kang Hiram's appearance at the Han Sung Group mansion, Han Ji Hune's daily life once again became fraught with tension. The peaceful atmosphere of a month ago had vanished, replaced by a relentless focus on unraveling Hiram's cunning actions and hidden motives. Ji Hune outwardly maintained an air of nonchalance, but his eyes constantly tracked Hiram's every move. His genius mind analyzed her every word and action, never missing even the slightest inconsistency. He instinctively knew that Hiram was moving according to a meticulously crafted script. Hiram endeavored to solidify her relationship with Chairman Han Sung-min. She accompanied him to various charity events and business gatherings, presenting herself as the future of Han Sung Group and the chairman's indispensable aide. She graciously engaged with reporters, cultivating an image of elegance and intellect. Yet, in Ji Hune's eyes, it was all a calculated performance. Her smile was too perfect, therefore cold, and her actions too natural, thus artificial. Father, why does Ms. Kang Hiram smile so much in front of reporters? It doesn't seem like she's genuinely enjoying it. Ji Hune remarked casually one evening at dinner. Chairman Han smiled at his son's sharp question. Ji Hune, Hiram is managing her image as a businesswoman. Making a good impression on the public is important in business. But there's no sincerity in that smile. It looks like she's wearing a mask, Ji Hune insisted. His intuition relentlessly questioned Hiram's true nature. Chairman Han dismissed his son's words as trivial. He held Hiram's capabilities in high regard, attributing his son's remarks to childish jealousy. Ji Hune covertly initiated surveillance on Hiram's every move. He accessed the mansion's security camera system to track her movements and even attempted to hack into her phone records and email accounts for analysis. However, Hiram proved far more meticulous and cunning than anticipated. She left almost no digital footprint, conducting important conversations in person or using encrypted messages. She moved like a shadow. Ji Hune was aghast at her thoroughness. Ms. Unju, Kang Hiram is different from ordinary people. She conceals herself too perfectly. Ji Hune told Unju late one night, his face etched with fatigue and frustration. Unju gently stroked Ji Hune's shoulder. Young master, don't blame yourself too much. It just means Kang Hiram is very cunning. But with your abilities, you will surely find her weakness. My technical skills have limits. She's erasing all her digital traces. It's like she's a ghost. Ji Hune clenched his fist. He hated to admit his limitations. Then we need to find her human weaknesses. Unju stated, no matter how perfect a person is, living a life of deceit will eventually create small cracks. I've noticed a few strange things about Ms. Kang Hiram's behavior. Ji Hune looked at Unju, and hope flickered in his eyes once more. What is it? Ms. Hiram always wears designer clothes and expensive jewelry. But sometimes you can find subtle differences in her clothing or jewelry. For instance, she usually wears thin, delicate necklaces. But last night at dinner, she was wearing a slightly bulkier, vintage-style necklace. And one of her luxury handbags had a subtly different logo placement compared to one I saw in a magazine before. Unju calmly explained her observations. Ji Hune was astonished by Unju's keen observation. While he focused on Hiram's behavioral patterns and digital records, he hadn't paid attention to the subtle changes in her appearance or belongings. What does that mean? Perhaps she's wearing fakes, not genuine items, or she might be borrowing someone else's belongings. Someone truly wealthy and confident wouldn't obsess over such minor details. She's too preoccupied with appearances, Unju sharply pointed out. Ji Hune was once again impressed by Unju's insight. He immediately began to investigate the authenticity of the luxury watches, jewelry, and clothes Hiram wore. Based on Unju's idea, he secretly sent photos to luxury appraisers for consultation and tried to verify purchase records from overseas luxury boutiques Hiram had supposedly visited. But Hiram's meticulousness remained. She acquired counterfeit goods through offshore accounts or created fabricated purchase records for genuine items through identity laundering, thereby disguising her true identity in remarkably cunning ways. Some of the luxury watches Ms. Hiram wears are likely counterfeits, but she has meticulously fabricated the purchase records. This is not something an ordinary individual can do, Ji Hune said, his head bowed in frustration. Then does that mean someone is behind her? Unju asked cautiously. Probably. She might be part of a larger organization targeting Han Sung Group. Ji Hune's eyes gleamed in the darkness. His genius mind was already envisioning a bigger picture. They devised a new strategy to unearth Kang Hiram's hidden past. Ji Hune sought to bypass digital barriers and access her real-world connections. While Unju observed subtle reactions and facial expressions of other staff members interacting with Hiram within the mansion, hoping to pinpoint her vulnerabilities. Like assembling a vast puzzle, they began to locate the pieces of Hiram's fabricated life. One by one evening, Hiram was having dinner with Chairman Han. Hiram, feigning concern for Chairman Han's health, presented him with a newly developed health supplement. Chairman, you look tired lately, and I'm worried. This was specially developed by the best expert I know, and I thought it would be essential for you, Hiram said with a sweet smile. Chairman Han, touched by Hiram's thoughtfulness, prepared to drink the supplement. But at that very moment, Ji Hune caught a sinister glint in Hiram's eyes. He reacted instantly. Father, wait! Ji Hune cried out loudly. He rushed to the table and snatched the health supplement bottle from Chairman Han's hand. Chairman Han and Hiram were startled by Ji Hune's sudden action. Ji Hune, what are you doing? Chairman Han exclaimed angrily. Father, you shouldn't drink this, Ji Hune said firmly. His eyes seemed to pierce through Hiram. Hiram struggled to conceal her surprise. Ji Hune, why are you doing this? It's for the chairman's health. This supplement, it might contain ingredients that are harmful to your health. Father, I'm certain of it, Ji Hune said, looking directly into Hiram's eyes. He had a strong intuition that this supplement contained something more than typical health ingredients. His mind was already calculating numerous possibilities. Unju stood by Ji Hune's side. Supporting his words, she, too, had sensed a strange unease in Hiram's actions. Chairman Han, swayed by his son's serious expression and firm voice, ultimately did not drink the supplement. He instructed Ji Hune to send the supplement to a specialized institution for ingredient analysis. A few days later, the analysis results came back. The health supplement contained a high concentration of caffeine and a trace amount of tranquilizers. While not immediately life-threatening, prolonged consumption could strain the heart and induce psychological dependence, a dangerous combination. This was a cunning tactic designed to cloud Chairman Han's judgment, thereby facilitating Hiram's takeover of Han Sung Group's management. Chairman Han was in shock. He had never imagined Hiram would do such a thing to him. He was once again impressed by his son Ji Hune's extraordinary insight, and at the same time felt deep distrust and anger towards Hiram. Ms. Hiram was truly a frightening person. Chairman Han sighed. Yes, father. She not only targeted your wealth, but also tried to harm your health. Her objective was likely to seize control of the entire Han Sung Group, Ji Hune said in a cold voice. After this incident, Hiram was banned from entering the mansion. She tried to plead and explain herself to Chairman Han, but he no longer believed her words. Ji Hune and Unju had exposed her true identity. However, Hiram did not give up easily. She threatened to file a lawsuit against Han Sung Group or use the media to damage Chairman Han's reputation. Her desperate struggles intensified. Ji Hune and Unju prepared for Hiram's counterattack. They delved even deeper into uncovering Hiram's hidden cards and the shadowy forces assisting her. Ji Hune meticulously traced all of Hiram's digital records to identify her true accomplices, while Unju diligently sought additional clues from her subtle habits and demeanor. Their collaboration became even more seamless, and their trust in each other deepened further. The late-night investigations and analyses exhausted them physically and mentally, but they couldn't stop. A vast shadow still loomed over them. But now they were no longer alone. Ji Hune drew immense strength from Unju's presence by his side. Her warm heart and keen insight infused human warmth into his cold logic. Unju, too, believed that Ji Hune's brilliant abilities and her own sincere dedication would play a crucial role in overcoming this crisis. One dawn, Ji Hune discovered a crucial clue on his computer screen. Hiram had been secretly contacting a colossal overseas investment firm. This firm had been steadily acquiring Han Sung Group's shares for several years, their objective being to undermine the group's management. Hiram, it turned out, was their puppet. Ms. Unju, I found it. The mastermind behind Hiram, Ji Hune said excitedly, his eyes gleaming through his fatigue. Unju approached Ji Hune and looked at the screen. Complex charts and company names appeared before her eyes. Then what should we do? Now, it's not just about stopping Hiram. We need to deal with the forces behind her. This fight is going to be much bigger, Ji Hune said firmly. His voice held determination, not fear. He was ready to embark on a colossal battle. Outside the mansion windows, the faint rays of dawn began to appear. A new day was breaking. And with it, Han Ji Hune and Lee Unju's colossal battle was about to truly begin. They trusted and relied on each other, ready to confront the immense shadow of evil. With the revelation that a colossal overseas investment firm, Black Lotus Capital, was backing Kang Hiram, Han Ji Hune and Lee Unju entered an even more perilous phase. Hiram was not merely a gold digger. She was the vanguard of a massive conspiracy aiming to devour the Han Sung Group. Ji Hune's genius intellect and Unju's keen insight were now dealing with critical information that could determine the fate of an entire corporate empire. Moving beyond simple personal surveillance, their collaboration grew even tighter, and their trust in each other deepened into a profound bond. Ji Hune delved deep into the information surrounding Black Lotus Capital, the foreign investment firm behind Hiram. He analyzed the firm's management, key investors, and passed merger and acquisition cases to identify their business practices and vulnerabilities. It became clear that Black Lotus Capital employed subtle legal maneuvers and covert lobbying to merge with or collapse various companies, then acquire them at bargain prices. They regarded Hansung Group as their next prey. Ms. Unju, Black Lotus Capital isn't just an investment firm. They exploit corporate weaknesses, destabilize them from within, and then acquire them cheaply. Hiram was their spearhead, Ji Hune explained, his eyes fixed on the computer screen late into the night. Fatigue etched his face, but his voice was firm. Unju handed Ji Hune a warm cup of tea. Then how can we stop them? They seem so massive and organized. Their weaknesses always exist. They won't hesitate to use any illegal means for profit. We need to uncover their illicit activities, Ji Hune said. Deep in thought, he meticulously analyzed Black Lotus Capital's extensive data, searching for their vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, Hiram burned with a thirst for revenge after being expelled from the mansion. She used the media to spread damaging articles about Hansung Group and Chairman Han, and disseminated malicious rumors to destabilize the group's stock prices. With support from Black Lotus Capital, she attempted to steal confidential information from Hansung Group or sway key shareholders to their side. Suspicious figures frequently appeared around the mansion, and Ji Hune and Unju remained constantly on guard. One afternoon, while trailing Hiram, Ji Hune and Unju found themselves in grave danger. Hiram, realizing Ji Hune was investigating her, attempted to trap them. They were being followed by mysterious men acting under Hiram's orders, and a deliberate collision occurred with their car on a secluded road outside Seoul. Ms. Unju, are you all right? Ji Hune frantically called out to Unju. The accident wasn't major, but blood trickled from Unju's forehead due to the impact. Yes, young master, I'm fine, Unju replied, enduring the pain. She first checked on Ji Hune. Fortunately, Ji Hune was unharmed. Seeing the mysterious men approaching the accident scene, Ji Hune told Unju, Ms. Unju, we need to get away quickly. They're after us. But I can't leave you alone, young master. Unju firmly declared. She hid Ji Hune behind her. I'll manage. You shouldn't get hurt. Ji Hune grabbed Unju's hand and bolted out of the car. Despite his young age, he displayed astonishing composure and judgment. They fled down a narrow alleyway. The mysterious men relentlessly pursued them. Ji Hune quickly called the police on his smartphone, but it would take time for help to arrive in such a remote location. Unju ran, shielding the young Ji Hune. Her legs were already reaching their limit, but the thought of protecting Ji Hune spurred her on. At the end of the narrow alley, they found themselves in a dead end. They were trapped. The mysterious men slowly surrounded them. Sinister smiles plastered on their faces. Ji Hune, where do you think you're going now? Come with us willingly, and your life will be spared, one of the men said with a sneer. Ji Hune gripped Unju's hand even tighter. His face, instead of fear, held a resolute expression. I won't go with you. And don't you dare touch Miss Unju. The kid's got guts. But nobody listens to a child, the man said, moving towards Ji Hune. At that moment, Unju swiftly shielded Ji Hune behind her, blocking the men's path. I will protect young Master Ji Hune. I will never let him go. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were fierce. The man roughly shoved Unju's shoulder. Unju stumbled, but did not fall. She quickly regained her balance and continued to shield Ji Hune. This woman is annoying! Just get rid of her! The man ordered his subordinates. Other men rushed at Unju. Unju resisted with all her might, trying to block them and buy Ji Hune time to escape. She struggled, but it was futile. She was eventually overpowered and fell to the ground. Miss Unju! Ji Hune cried out. He was shocked to see Unju in danger because of him. All his fear and distrust seemed to vanish in an instant. Only concern and anguish for Unju filled his heart. At that moment, Ji Hune's eyes changed. His gaze burned with cold fury. He was no longer a frightened young boy. He was a warrior, ready to stake everything to protect the person he cherished. His mind instantly analyzed the situation and calculated a way to escape. Ji Hune looked around. It was a dead end, but he spotted a narrow ventilation shaft leading to an adjacent building. He thought he could escape through there. He rushed to Unju. Miss Unju, are you all right? Unju nodded weakly, her face smeared with blood and sweat. Trust me, I'll save you, Ji Hune whispered, holding Unju's hand. His voice held a conviction and determination she had never heard before. Ji Hune quickly pulled out his smartphone and created a loud noise to distract the men. While they turned their attention to the sound, Ji Hune led Unju towards the ventilation shaft. He pushed Unju inside first. "Hurry! Get in! I'll follow," Ji Hune urged. Unju didn't hesitate. She trusted Ji Hune's words. She squeezed herself into the ventilation shaft. Ji Hune confirmed the men were approaching, then followed her inside. The ventilation shaft was narrow and dark, but they crawled desperately. Behind them, they could hear the heavy breathing and curses of the men. Ji Hune didn't let go of Unju's hand. He held it tightly, leading her. Unju relied on the firm strength she felt in Ji Hune's small hand. After a while, they reached the end of the ventilation shaft. It led to a small, open space, and in the distance, they could hear the sirens of police cars. Ji Hune breathed a sigh of relief. The police had arrived. The men, hearing the sirens, quickly fled. Ji Hune and Unju emerged from the ventilation shaft. Unju's clothes were dirty, and blood was still flowing from her forehead. Ji Hune looked at her with a worried expression. "Ms. Unju, are you badly hurt?" Ji Hune tried to wipe the blood from Unju's forehead. Unju took Ji Hune's hand. "I'm fine, young master. I'm just glad you're safe." Her voice trembled, but her eyes were warm. At that moment, Ji Hune was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable surge of emotion. His heart swelled with gratitude that Unju had risked everything to protect him. The icy wall in his heart had completely melted away. He could no longer maintain his calculated demeanor. Ji Hune rushed to Unju and hugged her tightly. His small body trembled, but his embrace was strong and sincere. Unju was surprised to be held by Ji Hune. She hadn't expected him to express such strong emotions. "Mom! Mom!" Ji Hune buried his face in Unju's shoulder, sobbing. His voice was filled with a sorrow and sadness like a child who had lost his mother at a young age. Unju gently stroked Ji Hune's back. Hot tears streamed down her face. She held Ji Hune's small body even tighter. She knew how long he had been lonely and how long he had longed for a mother's warm embrace. "Yes, Mom's here. It's okay. Ji Hune, Mom will always be by your side," Unju whispered. Her voice was choked with tears, but it was warm and loving. Ji Hune wept in Unju's arms for a long time. His tears seemed to wash away the pain and loneliness that had accumulated over many years. Through Unju, he finally felt the true love of a mother. For him, Unju was not just a nanny, but the only person who could heal his wounded heart. His allergy to gold diggers had now completely vanished. The police arrived and began investigating the incident, protecting Ji Hune and Unju. Chairman Han, upon hearing that his son and Unju were in danger, rushed to the scene. He was greatly alarmed by Unju's injuries, but even more shocked to hear Ji Hune call Unju Mom. He had never seen his son express such raw emotion. He finally realized how precious Unju had become to his son. "Ms. Unju, are you all right? I'm sorry. I'm sorry my son was put in danger." Chairman Han apologized to Unju. His face was filled with remorse and concern. "Not at all, Chairman. Young Master Ji Hune is safe. That's all that matters." Unju smiled. Her smile shone even through her fatigue. Chairman Han could see that the relationship between Unju and Ji Hune had deepened far beyond his imagination. He no longer saw Unju as merely a nanny. She was a precious presence who had opened his son's heart and filled the void in their family. He felt a deep gratitude towards Unju, alongside his anger towards Hiram. After returning to the mansion, Unju received medical attention for her injuries and rested. Ji Hune did not leave her side. He held Unju's hand and stayed with her until she fell asleep. His eyes were still filled with affection and concern for Unju. In his heart, a deep love for Unju had now taken root, along with a strong determination to protect her. That night, in the mansion's silence, Han Ji Hune realized the true meaning of family. Lee Unju, though not related by blood, had become more precious to him than any blood relative. Her warm embrace healed all his wounds and filled his cold world with warmth. He was no longer alone. That night, after the heart-stopping chase and the profound moment when Han Ji Hune tightly embraced Lee Unju, calling her Mom, an unusual quietude settled over the Han mansion. Ji Hune did not leave Unju's side for a single moment. He resolutely stayed with her as nurses tended to her wounds, and he held her hand tightly until she succumbed to exhaustion and sleep. For the first time in his life, Ji Hune felt genuine warmth and tranquility emanating from another person. a sensation that transcended all intellect or material wealth. For Unju, Ji Hune's whispered mom, was the most powerful validation of all her efforts. Her patience, and the sincere love she had poured into him. It was not merely acceptance, but a deep, sacred bond. Han Sung-min, the chairman of Han Sung Group, faced a monumental shock that night. His son, Han Ji Hune, who had always been cold and guarded with everyone, had embraced a stranger and called her his mother. This left him both astonished and deeply moved, simultaneously forcing him to acknowledge the true extent of Kang Hiram's danger and the immense importance of Unju to his son. He understood that the relationship between Ji Hune and Unju was no longer that of employer and employee, but had evolved into an unbreakable, familial tie. The following morning, with Chairman Han Sung-min's full support, Ji Hune and Unju began to prepare for the final confrontation with Kang Hiram and Black Lotus Capital. Chairman Han mobilized the entirety of Han Sung Group's legal and security teams to assist his son and Unju, evidence of Black Lotus Capital's attempts to manipulate the stock market, their illegal use of insider information, and Kang Hiram's insidious plot to poison Chairman Han Sung-min with the health supplement were meticulously gathered, leaving no detail overlooked. Ji Hune, with his prodigious intellect, created a detailed digital presentation that simulated the entire conspiracy orchestrated by Hiram and Black Lotus Capital. The presentation included intricate diagrams of financial connections, recovered call recordings, and deciphered encrypted emails. He even simulated how the illegal stock transactions had impacted Han Sung Group's market value. Each slide was a powerful blow to Hiram's supposed integrity. Unju, with her sharp observational skills and sensitivity to human behavior, supplemented the evidence with a psychological dimension. She documented the inconsistencies in Hiram's words, the moments she revealed her greed and calculation, and the ways she attempted to manipulate the emotions of Chairman Han Sung-min and the mansion staff. Unju had even secured CCTV footage showing Hiram clandestinely accessing confidential documents or attempting to plant listening devices in Chairman Han's office. The synergy of technical and behavioral evidence painted a complete, undeniable picture. The confrontation took place in Han Sung Group's main conference room. It was more than just a board meeting. It was an unofficial tribunal. Besides Chairman Han Sung-min, Ji Hune, and Unju, key board members, the group's legal team, and several major investors were present. Kang Hiram arrived outwardly composed and confident as ever, dressed in an expensive designer suit, radiating a graceful smile, seemingly ready for a spectacular whitewashing. She still believed that no one could uncover her sophisticated machinations. Chairman Han Sung-min opened the meeting with a solemn tone. Today, we will shed light on a grave matter concerning the security and reputation of Han Sung Group. He looked directly at Hiram. Ms. Kang Hiram, and the organization behind you, Black Lotus Capital, have engaged in actions that directly threaten our corporation. Hiram scoffed. Chairman Han, what are you talking about? I am here as a potential business partner and a friend of the family. These accusations are absurd and insulting. Her voice resonated in the conference room, filled with feigned indignation. Ji Hune stepped onto the presentation podium. The boy looked small amidst the vast space, but his powerful demeanor and sharp eyes commanded everyone's attention. Ms. Kang, you can lie to others, but you cannot lie to data. Ji Hune began his presentation. The large screen behind him displayed complex charts, lines of code, and figures that left everyone present holding their breath. Ji Hune began to explain how Black Lotus Capital had used illicit derivative transactions to manipulate Han Sung Group's stock prices. He pointed out the falsified IP addresses, the phantom accounts created overseas, and the intricate chain of transactions designed to conceal the true identities of those behind it. This is evidence of insider trading, and these are the illegal transfers of funds made to bribe high-ranking officials to expedite the merger process. Ji Hune's voice was clear, articulate, and unwavering. Every word he spoke was a dagger plunging into the wall of lies Hiram had painstakingly built. Chairman Han, witnessing all these events, was once again impressed by Unju's courage and wisdom. He acknowledged that she had played a significant role not only in protecting his son, but also the entire family. Ji Hune once again realized how strong and brave his mother was. His love and respect for Unju deepened even further. Chairman Han Sung-min, having witnessed all these developments, was deeply moved by his son's growth. He felt that Ji Hune was not just a genius, but had grown into a mature adult with genuine humanity and responsibility. And at the heart of that growth was always Unju. Late at night, in the mansion's study, Ji Hune fell asleep leaning on Unju's lap. A peaceful smile graced his face. Unju gently stroked Ji Hune's hair, silently shedding tears. There was no longer fear or pain in her heart. Only love, happiness, and gratitude filled her. They had overcome all trials and tribulations. Becoming a true family, they now believed that they could overcome any difficulties together. However, Han Sung Group also suffered a certain degree of damage from this incident. Stock prices temporarily dropped, and the group's image sustained minor blemishes. But Chairman Han Sung-min responded swiftly and decisively. He held a press conference, transparently disclosing all the truth, and emphasized that this incident was uncovered thanks to the courage and wisdom of his son and the diligent Nanny, particularly as Han Ji Hune's extraordinary talent and Lee Unju's upright character became known to the public. Han Sung Group successfully turned the crisis into an opportunity. The battles with Kang Hiram, the threats from Black Lotus Capital, and the haunting shadow of the loan sharks from Lee Unju's past the Han Sung Group, Ji Hune, and Unju's family had together navigated countless trials. Now, with every conflict resolved, a peace warmer and more profound than ever permeated the Han Sung Group mansion. This peace wasn't merely the absence of external enemies. It was a peace born from fighting and hurting together, from healing each other's deepest wounds. It was the realization of what true family meant. Ms. Unju, thank you so much. Without you, our Ji Hune would not have grown like this, and Han Sung Group would have faced a major crisis. Chairman Han expressed his sincere gratitude to Unju. Unju smiled. You're welcome, Chairman. Young Master Ji Hune is my son. It is natural to protect family. Her words were filled with true love and pride. Ji Hune, now no longer just a 12-year-old, had blossomed with a maturity beyond his years, yet simultaneously regained the pure innocence of a child. He no longer distrusted others. His severe allergy to gold diggers had completely vanished upon meeting Unju. He had learned to judge people not by their money or status, but by their sincerity, love, and inner integrity. His gaze remained sharp, but it was now filled with warmth and compassion. A happy smile constantly graced his face, and he unhesitatingly relied on Unju, expressing his love freely. Ji Hune, with a cold expression and emotionless eyes, spoke, Ms. Kong, you not only attempted to deceive my father and the board, but you also employed every despicable tactic to achieve your goals. You tried to poison my father with dangerous substances, and you hired people to attack us to silence us. These are not only illegal acts, but also grave moral transgressions. Han Ji Hune was 12 years old. While most children his age were engrossed in toys or comic books, Ji Hune's sole interest lay in complex algorithms and quantum mechanics. In the most luxurious residential area of Gangnam, Seoul, within the grand marble and glass mansion of Han Sung Group's chairman, Ji Hune's personal study on the top floor resembled a miniature universe. Walls were lined with books ranging from humanities to cutting-edge science and technology, and 3 state-of-the-art monitors gleamed on the colossal desk in the center. Ji Hune was perpetually immersed in his own world there, detached from the outside. Every morning, Ji Hune would rush to Unju's room, shouting "Mom" and embracing her tightly. Unju would stroke his hair, holding him warmly. Their mornings were filled with laughter. Breakfast was no longer a cold obligation, but a cherished time for the family to gather and share stories. Ji Hune would tell Unju about new scientific theories he learned at school or amusing anecdotes with his friends, and Unju would listen intently to every word, offering warm advice without hesitation. Peace returned to the mansion, but it was a different kind of peace than before. It was a precious peace earned after overcoming trials and tribulations, and within it, true love and trust had taken root. The relationship between Ji Hune and Unju had become an unshakable family bond that no external force could disturb. Together, they overcame every difficulty and became even stronger. Chairman Han Sung-min watched his son and Unju's relationship blossom, feeling moved day by day. He deeply regretted that his immersion in business had prevented him from truly understanding his son's loneliness and suffering. Unju was no mere nanny to him. She was a precious individual who had transformed his son's life and awakened the true meaning of family. Chairman Han cherished and respected Unju as if she were his own daughter, actively incorporating her opinions into crucial business decisions. As a special consultant in Han Sung Group's strategic planning office, Unju played a significant role in establishing the group's humanistic and ethical management philosophy, and her insights provided a new direction for the group's corporate social responsibility. My son, Ji Hune, and Ms. Lee Unju played a decisive role in uncovering the truth of this incident. I am deeply grateful for their courage and wisdom. Han Sung Group will continue to contribute to society through transparent and honest management. Chairman Han's press conference left a deep impression on the public. His candor, his faith in his son, and his trust in Unju resonated with the public's hearts. Unju's ailing mother and younger brother, Jun Ho, now also lived peaceful lives. Unju, with the fair compensation she received from Han Sung Group, had cleared all her family's debts and could provide her mother with the highest level of medical care. Jun Ho no longer trembled with anxiety. He focused on his studies and nurtured his dreams. Chairman Han Sung-min provided Jun Ho with a scholarship, fully supporting his education. And Jun Ho and Ji Hune grew close, becoming like brothers, positively influencing each other. Every weekend, Unju's family visited the Han Sung Group mansion, where they shared meals and stories, forming a true extended family bond. With the downfall of Kang Hiram and the retreat of Black Lotus capital, true peace settled over the Han Sung Group mansion. It was not merely the peace that came from the disappearance of external threats. It was a peace forged through shared trials and tribulations. A peace in which deep understanding and love between family members had taken root. Han Ji Hune no longer lived trapped by past wounds and distrust. Thanks to Lee Unju's warm love and devoted care, his frozen heart had completely thawed. He now regarded the 24-year-old Nanny as his true mother, expressing all his emotions freely and openly. Unju, thanks to you, our family has become so happy. Thank you so much, Unju's mother said, tears streaming down her face as she held her daughter's hand. Mom, I'm happier because I can protect my family, Unju replied, hugging her mother and smiling. In her heart, there was pride in having protected her family, along with deep gratitude for the Han Sung Group family who had believed in her and loved her. Kang Hiram attempted to interrupt. This is all a misunderstanding. That data can be manipulated. They are just soulless numbers, she hastily denied, her voice beginning to betray a hint of panic. Ji Hune, now a young man in his late teens, had grown even more brilliant. His intellect sharpened, and his leadership became more resolute. He demonstrated excellence in every aspect as the next generation executive who would lead the Han Sung Group into the future. Yet, he never became arrogant. Through Unju, he learned humility, empathy, and human warmth. He used his abilities solely for good, actively participating in helping the vulnerable in society. Under Ji Hune's transformation and leadership, Han Sung Group transformed from merely a profit-driven corporation into a model enterprise that positively impacted society. Every morning, Ji Hune would rush to Unju's room, exclaiming, "Mom, it's morning, wake up quickly." His voice was filled with a childlike innocence and happiness. Each time Unju awoke, her heart swelled with warmth at Ji Hune's bright smile. She would stroke his hair and embrace him warmly. These were ordinary, yet precious, daily moments that had been unimaginable before. One day, at the Han Sung Group's founding anniversary event, Chairman Han Sung-min officially announced Ji Hune as his successor. Ji Hune ascended the podium, and beside him, Unju stood with a proud smile. Ji Hune began his speech. His voice was calm, but his message was powerful. I stand here today as the one who will take responsibility for the future of Han Sung Group. Many people have helped me grow this way, but especially my mother, Ms. Lee Unju, played the biggest role, Ji Hune said, looking at Unju with a warm smile. Mom taught me what is more important than money, true love, and trust, and the preciousness of family. As I learned from Mom, I will make Han Sung Group a company that contributes to creating a world where everyone can live happily. Oh, then let's talk about something with more soul. Ms. Kang. Unju stepped forward, holding a small voice recorder and a USB drive. She looked directly at Hiram. Ms. Kang, do you remember this conversation? Everyone present at Ji Hune's speech was deeply moved. They realized that the next leader of Han Sung Group was not merely a genius, but a true leader with a warm heart. Tears streamed down Unju's face. Listening to Ji Hune's speech, She felt an immeasurable sense of pride and happiness. At mealtimes, Ji Hune no longer ate in silence. He would tell Unju about new knowledge he had learned at school or share small, interesting stories about his friends. Sometimes, he would even explain complex mathematical problems or scientific discoveries, seeking Unju's opinion. Unju listened attentively to all of Ji Hune's stories and genuinely empathized with him, offering warm advice without hesitation. Years passed. Ji Hune became the young chairman of Hansung Group. Expanding it into a global enterprise, he earned widespread respect for his management philosophy, which prioritized human values alongside innovative technology. By his side, Unju was always there, like a shadow. Unju was Ji Hune's steadfast supporter, his closest friend, and his eternal mother. She extended warm love to Ji Hune's wife and children, transforming the Hansung Group mansion into a true home filled with love and laughter. Following the incident, Lee Unju's position within the mansion and the Hansung Group changed completely. She was no longer a mere nanny. She was now regarded as a hero who had made significant contributions to preventing Hansung Group's crisis, and a miraculous presence who had opened the heart of young Master Han Ji Hune. All the staff in the mansion looked at Unju with eyes of respect and gratitude. Even Mrs. Park bowed deeply and apologized to Unju. Ji Hune's children adored Unju like a grandmother, growing up nurtured by her wisdom and warm embrace. Ji Hune constantly told his children how precious Unju was to him, teaching them that a person's true worth comes not from their appearance or background, but from the purity and sincerity within their heart. His allergy to gold diggers had now completely vanished, replaced by a broad inclusiveness that allowed him to view everyone with a warm gaze. Chairman Han Sung-min, too, was deeply moved by his son's transformation. He deeply regretted that he had been so immersed in his business that he had failed to truly understand his son's loneliness and pain. Unju was no mere nanny to him. She was a precious individual who had transformed his son's life and awakened the true meaning of family. Chairman Han cherished and respected Unju as if she were his own daughter, actively incorporating her opinions into important business decisions. Unju, as a special consultant in Hansung Group's strategic planning office, played a significant role in establishing the group's humanistic and ethical management philosophy. Her insights provided a new direction for the group's corporate social responsibility. One sunny spring afternoon, in the sprawling garden of the Hansung Group mansion, Han Ji Hune sat with Unju, basking in the warm sunlight. Ji Hune held Unju's hand and said, "Mom, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, I would still be trapped in darkness." Unju gently stroked Ji Hune's hand. "Ji Hune, I'm happier because you're happy. I'm so glad you can live happily now, without pain." The two looked at each other and smiled. Their smiles contained all the past pain and trials, and were filled only with love, happiness, and serenity. A gentle spring breeze blew through the Hansung Group mansion's garden, as if it would forever cherish their happy smiles. They were a perfect family just by being with each other, and their love was the strongest force that could overcome any difficulty. Chairman Han Sung-min stood up, his eyes sharp as he looked at Hiram. "Ms. Kang, this evidence is undeniable. We will not tolerate anyone who attempts to destroy Hansung Group and my family. You will be held fully accountable under the law." Unju's ailing mother and younger brother Junho also found peace in their lives. Unju, with the fair compensation she received from Hansung Group, repaid all of her family's debts and was able to support her brother's tuition. Junho no longer trembled with anxiety and was able to focus on his studies, nurturing his dreams. Chairman Han Sung-min provided Junho with a scholarship, fully supporting his education, and Junho and Ji Hune grew close, becoming like brothers, positively influencing each other. Every weekend, Unju's family visited the Hansung Group mansion, where they shared meals and stories, forming a true extended family bond. "Ms. Lee Unju, I sincerely apologize for my misunderstandings and ill feelings towards you all this time. You are truly an extraordinary person. You are the first person to have changed young Master Ji Hune so profoundly," Mrs. Park said, her eyes welling up with tears. Unju smiled at Mrs. Park's sincere apology. "It's quite all right, Madam Park. I too had many shortcomings at first." Her humility further endeared her to many. Unju, thanks to you. Our family is so happy now. Thank you so much," Unju's mother said, tears streaming down her face as she held her daughter's hand. "Mom, I'm happier because I can protect my family, Unju replied, hugging her mother and smiling. In her heart, there was pride in having protected her family, along with deep gratitude for the Han-sung group family who had believed in her and loved her. The screen shifted to clear video segments. Although the images were slightly blurry, Kang Hiram's face, her gesturing, and her red sports car were clearly captured. Following that was the scene of the thugs blocking Ji Hune and Unju's car, Unju shielding Ji Hune, and even them attacking her. The truth was laid bare, undeniable. Ji Hune no longer harbored his severe allergy to gold diggers. He learned through Unju to judge people not by their appearance or background, but by their inner purity and sincerity. His perspective broadened, and his heart deepened. He began to view the world with a warmer gaze. The bond between Ji Hune and Unju deepened even further. Ji Hune regarded Unju as his true mother and closest friend. He confided everything in Unju and listened to her advice. Ji Hune no longer concealed his emotions. He would smile brightly in front of Unju, and sometimes even act childishly. His once cold gaze was now filled with warmth, and a happy smile always graced his face. Unju loved Ji Hune like her own son. She felt proud watching him grow and experienced immeasurable joy every time she held his small hand. Lee Unju also felt that her life had completely changed. Once, she had despaired in poverty and suffering, but now she lived a life filled with love and hope. She had become Ji Hune's mother, an important asset to the Han-sung group, and above all, a cherished individual whose worth was recognized. She was grateful that her life could have a positive impact on others. Whispers began to spread throughout the conference room. Board members and investors alike were shocked and outraged. They couldn't believe that a woman as beautiful and seemingly perfect as Kang Hiram could orchestrate such cruel schemes. The Han-sung group mansion was no longer a cold and solitary place. It had become a true home, overflowing with warmth and love. Every weekend, Chairman Han Ji Hune and Unju spent time together. They watched movies, strolled in the park, or played board games at home. Chairman Han felt a deep sense of happiness watching his son and Unju laugh and talk together. Ji Hune was now his greatest joy and pride. However, not all problems had been resolved. Black Lotus Capital did not abandon its plans even after Kang Hiram's arrest. They still considered Han-sung Group a threat and sought other ways to gain control of the conglomerate. They used confidential information about Han-sung Group, stolen by Kang Hiram, to manipulate public opinion or hinder the group's core business operations through other allies. Their existence, hidden in the shadows, remained a potential threat to Han-sung Group, Ji Hune, and Unju. The mansion's garden was in full bloom with spring flowers. Under the warm sunlight, Ji Hune and Unju sat together on the lawn, playing. His laughter was clear and bright. Unju held Ji Hune's hand and laughed with him. They looked just like a real mother and son. Chairman Han watched them from beyond the window, a warm smile on his face. There was no longer loneliness or anxiety in his heart. Only happiness and serenity filled him. This family had overcome trials and tribulations. Becoming truly united by genuine love, Hiram trembled. This is a fabrication. I never said those words, she stammered, trying desperately to maintain her last shred of composure. A new cloud gathered over the peaceful Han-sung Group mansion. While the confrontation with Kang Hiram and the battle with Black Lotus Capital had concluded successfully, a shadowy connection from Lee Unju's past began to disturb her tranquil life. Unju had painstakingly tried to erase these dark memories, but fate refused to release her. It was another nightmare that had haunted her childhood, constantly threatening the existence of her ailing mother and younger brother. Black Lotus Capital won't give up easily. They will attack us using other methods, Ji Hune told Chairman Han. His voice was full of caution. Chairman Han nodded at his son's words. I think so too. But now we know their true colors. We are ready to confront them. He felt proud of his son's growth. Ji Hune was now not just a genius child, but evolving into a strong leader who could take responsibility for the future of the group. One evening, Unju's younger brother, Lee Jun-ho, received a phone call. He rushed to his sister immediately after hanging up. Jun-ho's face was pale, and his hands trembled violently. Sister, those people have appeared again. His voice was choked with fear. The color drained from Unju's face. The phrase, those people, awakened the deepest, hidden terror within her. She gripped Jun-ho's shoulders and demanded, Who What happened? The people who used to lend money to Dad and torment us, they suddenly contacted me and told me to pay off Dad's debt. If I don't, they said they wouldn't leave Mom and you alone. Junho sobbed. His eyes filled with a fear too heavy for a child his age to bear. Ultimately, Hiram was escorted out of the conference room in utter humiliation. Her face was contorted with hatred and fear. She glanced at Ji Hune and Unju with a look that could devour them. But Ji Hune simply stood there, his eyes cold and unwavering. Unju held Ji Hune's hand, gently reassuring the boy. Unju's father had accumulated significant debts from loan sharks after his business failed, leading him to become entangled with a violent organization. Unable to repay his debts, he abandoned his family and fled, leaving Unju's mother and young Junho to suffer under the relentless threats and violence of the loan sharks. Unju's very reason for joining Han Sung Group was to repay these debts. She had believed that the compensation she received from Han Sung Group had mostly covered the loan sharks' demands. But these ruthless creditors were now demanding additional interest and illegal past fees, once again pressuring her and her family. They had discovered that Unju had entered the prestigious Han Sung Group, a colossal conglomerate, and sought to exploit her vulnerability. Unju listened to the conversation between Ji Hune and Chairman Han and made a silent vow. She was willing to take any risks for Ji Hune and Han Sung Group. She realized that her reason for being there was not just to earn money, but to become a member of this family and protect them. Her presence became a great source of strength not only for Ji Hune, but also for Chairman Han. It can't be. I paid it all back, Unju murmured, her voice trembling. She tried to reassure Junho, but fear was already welling up in her heart. Ji Hune happened to overhear Unju and Junho's conversation. His eyes turned cold. He finally understood how painful Unju's past had been, and how heavy a burden she had carried throughout her life. His heart burned with fury. How dare they torment his mom and her family? Kang Hiram completely collapsed. Her face was ashen, her eyes staring blankly at the screen. Her usual arrogance vanished entirely, replaced by extreme fear and despair. She had no more words to justify herself. Ji Hune approached Unju. Mom, what's wrong? Why is Junho young like this? His voice was filled with concern, yet also a subtle firmness. Unju didn't want to tell Ji Hune. She didn't want to cause him any more pain. It's nothing. Ji Hune, I'll handle it. She tried to smile, but Ji Hune took Unju's hand. You've told me everything. Mom, I want to solve your problem with you too. His eyes were unwavering. He was willing to share Unju's past and pain. A few days later, Black Lotus Capital filed a patent infringement lawsuit against Han Sung Group regarding its core technology. They leveraged the technology of a former Han Sung Group partner company, which they had secretly acquired in the past, to claim patent infringement. This was a cunning strategy aimed at destabilizing Han Sung Group's stock price once again and damaging the group's image. Their attacks were becoming increasingly sophisticated and legalistic. Ultimately, Unju confessed everything to Ji Hune, her father's debts, the loan shark's threats, and how long she had suffered for her family. Ji Hune felt both anger and empathy as he listened to Unju's story. His heart ached for the pain his mother had endured, and he burned with a desire for revenge against the loan sharks who sought to exploit her. The truth was unveiled. A dark curtain had been pulled back, and the mastermind behind all the conspiracies was exposed. This confrontation not only brought Hiram's crimes to light, but also reaffirmed the reputation and strength of Han Sung Group. Thanks to Ji Hune's intellect and Unju's resilience, the two had proven that true love and sincerity could overcome any dark machinations, and that justice would ultimately prevail. They're worse than Black Lotus Capital, Ji Hune said in a cold voice. Don't worry, Mom, I'll handle this. Unju was moved by Ji Hune's words. Ji Hune, thank you, but they are dangerous people. I don't want to put you in danger too. Protecting you is my duty. Mom, their threats to your family are threats to me, Ji Hune said firmly. His eyes shone with his unique genius, combined with a strong determination to protect his cherished loved ones. Ji Hune, upon hearing about the patent infringement lawsuit, immediately took action. He analyzed the relevant technical documents throughout the night, attempting to find weaknesses in Black Lotus Capital's patent infringement claims. Unju stayed by Ji Hune's side, ensuring he didn't succumb to exhaustion. She brought him warm food and tea, and sometimes even helped him look up complex legal terms. She was no longer just Ji Hune's academic assistant. She was his steadfast companion and aide. Chairman Han Sung-min also expressed his indignation upon hearing Unju's story. He regarded Unju as family, so her suffering was his own. He immediately summoned his lawyers and secretaries, instructing them to identify the loan sharks and uncover their illegal activities. The immense power of Han Sung Group began to move, aiming to settle Unju's past once and for all. Unju played the recording. It was Hiram's voice, but not the sweet artificial tone everyone was accustomed to hearing. It was an aggressive, cold voice, giving orders to thugs to attack Ji Hune and Unju in the dark alley. The sound of the car collision, Unju's screams, and the attackers' chilling laughter echoed clearly throughout the conference room. Everyone was shocked. Han Sung-min clenched his fists, his face pale. However, the loan sharks proved to be far more cunning and organized than anticipated. They cleverly exploited legal loopholes to pressure Unju and did not back down easily, despite Han Sung Group's intervention. They directly threatened Unju's mother and Jun-ho, and even spread malicious rumors to tarnish Han Sung Group's image. They seemed to relish the challenge of going against a giant corporation like Han Sung Group. Ms. Unju, Black Lotus Capital has cleverly modified a core part of this technology to claim it as their own patent. But this part? It's clearly based on our group's original technology, developed years ago. Ji Hune explained his analysis to Unju. His eyes were sharp, but evident fatigue shadowed them. So, they illegally acquired the original technology, Unju asked. Probably. It's highly likely that when Kang Hiram stole our group's confidential information, this technology information was also passed on. Ji Hune gritted his teeth. Ji Hune, enraged by the loan sharks' actions, began to meticulously analyze them. He delved into their financial transaction records, past criminal histories, and the organizations connected to them. He discovered that the loan sharks were not merely a violent gang, but had covert ties to politicians and businessmen. This fight was far more complex and dangerous than the Kang Hye-rim incident. After Kang Hye-rim was ignominiously dragged out of the Han Sung Group conference room, the conglomerate found itself at the heart of a colossal storm. The truth had been exposed, but the ramifications were far greater than anticipated. The media relentlessly reported on Kang Hye-rim's wicked conspiracy and the shadowy power of Black Lotus Capital behind her, targeting the Han Sung Group. Kang Hye-rim's true face, once presented as an elegant and intelligent businesswoman, was peeled back layer by layer, and she swiftly devolved into a fraudster and villainess condemned by society. Her name now became a symbol of greed and betrayal. They're hiding behind a legal shield. We can't just rashly deal with them. Ji Hune sighed. His brilliant mind, no matter how much it analyzed, couldn't find a perfect solution. Unju stood by Ji Hune's side, holding his hand. Ji Hune, if it's too difficult, you can leave it to Mom and the chairman. No, Mom, I'll solve it. I'll protect you and Jun-ho Hyung. Ji Hune shook his head. His eyes gleamed with resolve. He once again realized that his genius existed to protect the people he loved. To counter the patent infringement lawsuit, they delved even deeper into Black Lotus Capital's past actions. Ji Hune uncovered cases of how they had previously usurped technology and stolen patents, while Unju sought to identify psychological weaknesses or illegal connections among the individuals involved in that process. Their efforts bore fruit. They found decisive evidence that Black Lotus Capital had exerted illegal pressure during the acquisition of Han Sung Group's partner company and had bribed a key individual involved in the confidential information leak. Ji Hune worked tirelessly, day and night, to find the loan sharks' weaknesses. He discovered subtle loopholes in their illegal financial transactions and began to expose the corruption of the politicians and businessmen who supported them. He collaborated with Han Sung Group's legal team, employing every possible legal method to pressure the loan sharks. No way! This isn't true! Hiram screamed, her voice cracking. She tried to rush towards the computer to turn off the screen, but the security guards swiftly restrained her. In this process, Unju's role became even more crucial. She directly confronted the loan sharks, exploiting their psychological weaknesses and steadfastly resisting their threats. Her courage and composure flustered the loan sharks. She countered them in ways they hadn't anticipated. That evidence completely invalidated Black Lotus Capital's patent infringement claims. Han Sung Group filed a countersuit based on that evidence, and Black Lotus Capital, realizing their conspiracy was about to be exposed once again, panicked. They understood they could no longer fight Han Sung Group. Ji Hune's brilliant analytical skills, Unju's keen insight, and Chairman Han's decisive leadership had once again saved Han Sung Group from crisis. One day, at the final negotiation with the loan sharks, Unju presented decisive evidence. It was a secret ledger, meticulously recording the loan sharks' illegal activities. Unju had obtained this ledger by secretly infiltrating their hideout. The ledger contained detailed records of all their illegal lending, acts of violence, and even bribery transactions with politicians. Kang Hiram was promptly arrested by the police, and the investigation moved swiftly. The digital evidence provided by Ji Hune, the psychological and behavioral evidence gathered by Unju, and the internal corporate documents supplied by Chairman Han all played crucial roles. All of her criminal acts, including her collusion with Black Lotus Capital, illegal stock trading, leakage of confidential information, and attempts to poison Chairman Han Sung-min, along with instigating violence against Ji Hune and Unju, were laid bare. Kang Hae-rim could not escape the judgment of the law. Her social status and reputation plummeted to rock bottom in an instant. Her glittering past and fabricated success story crumbled like a sandcastle. All of your illegal activities are recorded here. The day this ledger becomes public, you will all go to prison, Unju said in a resolute voice. Her eyes were unwavering. The loan sharks were caught off guard by Unju's unexpected counterattack. They were horrified to learn that their secret ledger had fallen into Unju's hands. They realized they could no longer fight Unju and Han Sung Group. Black Lotus Capital ultimately withdrew its patent infringement lawsuit and announced its intention to sever all business ties with Han Sung Group. They were no longer a match for Han Sung Group. With this, Han Sung Group was completely freed from the threats of Kang Hae-rim and Black Lotus Capital. Han Sung Group's stock price rose again, and its corporate image became even more positive. Han Ji-hoon solidified his position as the next-generation leader who would lead the group into the future. Ultimately, the loan sharks agreed to waive all debts and promised never to approach Unju or her family again. They completely succumbed to Unju's determination, Ji Hoon's genius, and Han Sung Group's formidable power. Unju's past was finally completely resolved, and she and her family gained true freedom. "It's not a fabrication, Ms. Kang," Unju said, her voice filled with resolve. "This is a recording recovered from one of your henchmen's phones. And here." She plugged the USB into the computer. "Are CCTV footage segments from areas near the accident scene, showing how you directed them